Hey guys, welcome back to another episode, or another tutorial, I should say, on Hitfilm 4 Express. I'm your host, Laserblade, and here we go. Now, this is Hitfilm 4 Express. If you've watched my first video tutorial, you'll know basically how to get into your first project, set up picture-in-picture, do your intro, your outro, all that stuff. But today I want to go over layering, muting assets in your composite, setting up a composite for multi-purpose, and exporting a composite. At some future point I will be going over keyframing, animation, and masking. But for today, I think that we have a pretty good list going here. So, now I've already set up multiple projects to show. Well, I've been working with Hitfilm for quite some time, so I have numerous projects. But today's tutorial, we're just going to start out fresh. So let's go new. This will bring us to the project screen. We want to create a 1080p full HD 30 frames per second. The frame rates here, width and height here. Basically the same settings that I had in the previous project. Only when we actually export this video, we're going to set things up a little bit differently. So let's get straight to the editing. So here we have our project view, asset library, and effects, controls, and history and text. So, and then this is our timeline. So let's get the pieces in here that we actually need. So we're going to start with my Season 2, Episode 2. And we are going to also need Season 2, Episode 3. So I'm going to go ahead and import both of those. And I am also going to import Sarek's Season 2, Episode 2. So go ahead and open that. We also need to import some assets. My intro for Season 2, Episode 1. Now, before we start putting this together, I do want to create an outro. And I already have an outro created that utilizes static assets that I'm going to use for multiple videos. But what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to create a new composite and basically try to replicate what I already have. And I'll show you how that's done. So we're going to go with a new composite shot. We're going to call this outro underscore I guess generic, since we're going to use it for multiple projects. The duration of 30 seconds should be fine. That's typically what I do my outros as. This is hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. It's going to be 1920 by 1080, 30 frames per second, square pixels, and the audio. Now, in the Advanced tab, you can actually set up a variety of different things, motion blur, all that other stuff. But I typically don't do that. I just stick with the standard. You can play around with the advanced settings if you want to see what each of those things does, and perhaps at some point in the future I'll go over those. But for now, let's create our outro generic. Now, I need a lot of different assets for this outro, so I'm going to go ahead and import them now. I need my background, I need my music, I need the logo, the subscribe button. I believe that's everything that I need, so I'm going to go ahead and import those in. Now the actual outro clip, I need 30 seconds of it, so we'll go ahead and go to... Now, we want to get to 30 seconds here, so what you can do is you can hold in Control and use the scroll wheel to go 10 frames at a time, or if you don't hold in Control and you just scroll, it actually goes 3 seconds at a time. So that's exactly 30 seconds. So we'll hit the set out point, and we'll go ahead and import that in. And we'll go back to the beginning of that. Now there's the 30-second audio clip. Now for the last probably about 3 seconds of that, so I'll go to about 27 seconds. We want that to fade out, so we're going to set a keyframe here, and this is the audio boost essentially. So we'll leave it there, and then we'll take that all the way to the end, and we'll set the audio all the way down. Now that created, just by changing that level, because we have level selected, it automatically created a keyframe where we changed it. So we now have the music fading at that point, and I'll show you that real quick. It's starting to fade now, and that's exactly what we want. So let's go back to the beginning. Now we want our background in there, and you don't have to use your asset viewer to import assets. You can simply drag things in, and that will that'll actually fill the full 30 seconds. If we go all the way to the end here, we still have that asset in view. So just by dragging it in there, it automatically sets the amount of time that we need. Now, because this, when we have the preview in here, it makes things really big. What we want to do is actually go into list mode so that we can see everything all at once. So what we're going to do here is we're going to we'll add the logo next. So I'm going to go ahead and put that here. Now that logo is really big, and we actually want it to be considerably smaller. And I have the actual size that I want it to be, and the location that I want it to be. So we're going to do a transform on it, and we're going to scale it down to 60%. And because it's locked, it'll be 60% width and 60% height. And we also want it, the location or position, to be 0 and 296. And that puts it up near the top of the screen. And this whole piece is going to show up in the editor once I put it into the editor. But for now, we're just going to work in composite mode. So that's fine where it is. We also want to have our subscribe button, so we're going to go ahead and drop that in there. And that's obviously too big as well. So we're going to do a transform on that, and the scale on that is 70%, and that drops it down just a little bit. But we also want it at a different position, and what we want is 655 and 305, and that puts it right up beside the logo, and it gives us a nice big piece for us to link our subscribe to. And now that's in place. Now, when you're working with layers, what you need to know is that the layers, starting at the bottom of the list, that's your bottommost layer. So if I took the background layer and I moved it up, it would actually hide the logo because the logo is now below it. So we want to make sure that as we're putting our layers in, we layer them from the bottom up. So now the subscribe and the logo doesn't matter which one is on top here because they don't intersect because they're both PNGs. They have transparent backgrounds, so they're not going to lay over top of each other. Okay, so the next piece that we want to put in here is actually just text, and we do that by clicking up here in our project screen, and we select text, and we're going to basically just click in here. Now the full size of the screen is 1920 by 1080, so a 400 by 400 size text is going to be it's probably going to be pretty big, but it won't matter because we're going to center the text in the inside the enclosing piece. So we'll say okay to that. Now it's not as big as I would like it to be, but if we click inside of there and we type out ARC, and then we highlight that text, and we go over here, we want this to be elemental end, and we also want it to be very, very big. We're going to go with 240 points. That's really big. It's actually so big that it doesn't even fit inside this 400 by 400. So we're going to increase this just enough to fit that text in there. And we're also going to center the text, which isn't really going to affect it that much. And we want the text to be black, I believe. And we want the border to be white. And we want the border to be 1 point or 1 pixel wide. And then we will go ahead and move that so that, oh, that's actually kind of too big. So 240 is too big. So you have to double click again, because it has to be highlighted in order for this to change. Let's drop it to 200 and see what that does for us. Still too big. 180? It's closer. Let's try 150. That might actually be about perfect. And we can size this back down. And then we'll move it so that it fits inside of here. Good enough. All right. We want to add additional text, so we're going to click here. And since 400 wide wasn't big enough, we'll go 600 wide. But we should only need about 150 tall. Oops, 150 tall. Okay, we'll hit OK on that. We'll click inside of there, and we'll go. Oh, come on. It's not typing. Why is it not typing? Oh, probably because it's... We actually want Arial Black, and we'll drop this back down to 60 points. And let's see if it actually put anything in there. It did. So select all that. Put it on Arial Black. Drop this down to 60 points. And we actually want this text to be white with a black border. And then we can resize this. And we can move it. So it's going to basically go from side to side right there. And that's what we have so far. Excuse me. Now, we can actually rename these. We'll call this one Arc. And we'll call this one Survival Evolved. So that we know what's what, right? And then we want to add additional text, of course. So we will add some text up here. Thanks for watching. Go ahead and do that. And we actually don't need, you have to actually select all that. And we don't need anything on that, so. And we're going to put it up here in the blue, so it's easy to see. And then we're going to add additional text here. And this one we're going to go 800 by 500. Now this one's the tricky one, because what we want to do is I think, see, you gotta, this one's really tricky. I think it's that. You can't actually see what it says, but this elemental end is really strange, the way that it's set up. It has, in order to get letters to look a specific way, you actually have to type them uppercase and lowercase, and it will basically match itself up. And we want to increase the size of that, and we want We want to take this up to 1, which I could just type in, but whatever. Alright. So let's get that set up and move it into place. And that looks pretty much the way I want it to. Yeah, I think that works. Alright. So now we have all the upper text, and we want our 2 video links in place. Now, in order to get those video links in place, the first thing we have to do is create a new plane. And the plane is actually going to be 716 by 410. We'll hit OK. We'll take this plane and we'll move it in here. Up here. Yeah. And the location that we want this to be in is 502 and minus 232. Now, we're going to rename this one, and we're going to call it Right View. Alright, now we want the same thing, but on the other side. So we can actually duplicate this, and we can rename this one to be Left View. And we simply apply a transform to it and put a minus sign in front of that, and boom, there we go. We've got our right view and our left view set up perfectly for our clips. Now, the only thing that we're missing now is the text that goes underneath these. Now, we'll go back to text. We will click in here, and we want it to be the same width as our layers there, but we don't need that much height, so we'll just go with 120. Let's see what that does for us. And if you remember correctly, holding in right click moves these. So before we actually start typing in that, I'm going to move it up here, and then I'll go ahead and type in there. And we want this to say click to watch. No, it's the wrong font size, so that's the wrong font, everything. So we're going to switch this back to, I believe this is just regular Arial, and it's going to be 42 point, and it's going to be white, and it's not going to have any border. And then I can type click to watch Serix view. And it's actually a little bit taller than it needs to be. So we'll go ahead and size that down a little. We'll reposition it so that it's directly below. And then we're going to rename this one. Alt view. And now we're going to take this and we're going to, let's check on the transform just to make sure. Minus 502, minus 500. That seems fine. And we're going to duplicate it. And we're going to transform it and change the position. Oops, this position is the one we want to change to just 502. And we're going to rename this one to be next episode. Okay. Then, damn it. On the next episode, ... And that's it. It is now, of course, it changed that. So we'll change that back. And that's it. We now have this set up for as a template, essentially. Now we go back to the editor, and we can actually put that that generic outro in our timeline, and you can see it here, and we can even play it. And of course the audio plays as well, but this is a generic template. It's basically perfectly set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a file, save as, and we're going to call this, actually I'm going to save it in assets, and I'm going to call it tutorial 2. Oh, I have caps lock on, my bad. Tutorial 2, and we're going to save it. Now we're going to take this outro generic, and we are going to save it as a composite shot, and we're going to call it tutorial outro, and we're going to save it in the asset folder as well. Now this is the fun part, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that generic outro composite shot and I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to take the new plane, I'm going to delete that. The subscribe button, delete that. The pure logo, outro background, and the MP3. So the only things left are my intro and the 3 movies. My Season 2, Episode 2 for Sarek, and mine, and then my Season 2, Episode 3. So then if I right-click here, import composite shot, I'm going to import my tutorial outro. I'm going to open it, and there we have it. It actually imported the tutorial outro, and here is the actual name of the composite shot, and these are all the assets that it uses in this composite shot. Uses the MP3, uses the background, the logo, the subscribe button, and the plane that I created all get imported. And the text is just put into place. So all of that is all now showing up in the proper place. So that is how you save a template and then re-import it into a new or a new project, essentially. And now my list is much shorter, because now I just have this generic outro that I can add anywhere into my clips that I want to. So we're going to start. Now that's creating the composite and layering, and setting up the composite to be reused in future projects. And I showed you a little bit of keyframing, actually. I said I wasn't going to go over that, but I actually did with the audio reduction at the end of the outro. So now we're going to put our video together, essentially. So we're going to start with the intro, and we're gonna just drag it in here and drop it, and it shows up where we want it to. It's right at the beginning of our video. Now, if you're having trouble with your video taking a really long time to reach the point where it's actually playable, where when you hit the play button it seems to hesitate or skip, you can reduce what it's showing you down to 1/4. Now, of course, this is going to look a little ugly, but if you already have the video pieces pretty much ready to go, it's not going to matter all that much. If you're doing very finite editing where you need pixel perfect locations, rotations, scaling, whatever, you can always bump this back up to full, and it might take a few seconds or even a minute to re-render at full, but leaving it at 1/4 when you know all the pieces, you know what they look like, you know how they're going to come in, that can be helpful. Oh yeah, and by the way, to make this whole process, to create essentially a template for yourself, since the two videos that you're going to be working with, or the one video that you're going to be working with, if you just do like a name tag or an overlay, because I use a name tag, but you might want to put like an overlay on there, maybe your channel logo, or whatever it is that you want to put in there. Maybe you want to do subtitles or whatever, but you'll have the pieces that are going to change on a regular basis. You want those to be in the middle. My intro, even though it's on layer 1 now, I'm going to go ahead and move that up to layer 3, because the intro length is always going to be the same. I basically, actually, my girlfriend Saber is the one that creates these, but she creates them in the same program, and they're always the same length. And the only thing that she does is she edits the text at the partway mark, to show the season and episode numbers, and then whatever the title happens to be. So those are always going to be the same length, and I always have the name tag following those, whether the name tag is for me or for Saber or for Sarek. It always follows that. But this gives me room to edit the video pieces in place. So, and that way I can move them in or out as needed and get everything lined up, and then cut where I need to cut. Alright guys, so now that I've got the videos trimmed at the beginning and the end, and I have the exact pieces that I want, and I've actually made the name tag come to the end of the video. You can see it there. And here's Sarek's video, and here's my video. Of course, Sarek's video still needs to be dropped down in size to the picture-in-picture size that I need it to be. But I am ready to go ahead and put the outro in place. Now, this is the outro, and it's the generic outro that I imported, and it is a composite, and I can just drag that out and it'll go into place where I need it to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on video layer 3. Didn't quite align. There we go. I'm going to put it on video layer 3 because, again, at least in my situation, videos 1 and 2 are the only pieces that are going to change, and they'll change periodically with this setup. So when I bring in new videos for video 1 and video 2, I don't have to worry about them overlapping the outro or or being, or having to readjust the outro accordingly in order to fit any longer videos in place, because most of my videos will need to be trimmed down. So I put that on the layer 3 because it's the easiest place to work with it. And the outro is going to have it is going to have audio just like the intro did. You heard the outro MP3 play in the background. So my audio channel 3 will be on. Now, since my name tag doesn't actually have any audio associated with it, it's going to be blank, but that's not going to matter. It's getting the audio for the outro and the audio for the intro, which is at the very beginning. And I can jump back to the beginning and show you that. So here's the intro piece. We want the audio playing there, and we want it playing in the outro. And what we don't want playing is the audio for the second clip, which is Sarek's video. And the reason that we don't want that playing is because it'll cause an echo. There's simply no way to, unless they're being recorded on the same exact machine at the same exact time, there's always going to be some form of echo in place, which is why we mute the second video. So now we want to take Sarek's video, which is currently on, and we want to turn that into a composite. So what we're going to do is right-click, make composite, and we're going to call this one Sarek Pip, just like I did in my first tutorial video on Hitfilm. And we're going to say OK, and there it is. And it's the full length that it needs to be. Now here's the fun part. By importing the generic, the outro generic, it came with a plane, and the plane is the perfect size for the video. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that in here, and it's going to go the full length of the video that I'm converting into a composite. And I'm going to take his video and I'm going to parent it with plane 1, and then I'm going to do a transform on it and scale it down to 37%. Now you probably can't see it unless I go back to the editor, but there's a black border around it, and it's really hard to see it on this side because we're using quarter. If I go full, it cleans everything up and you can actually see the black border much easier. But I'm going to go back to quarter just so that everything renders a little bit faster. And I'll go back to my composite of the video, and I'm going to select plane 1, and I actually have a location for plane 1, and that location is, if I did this right, position 716. No, that's not the right. That's not the right location at all. Here it is. Picture in picture. 570. Sorry about that. And 300. And that puts it up in this corner. Now it's not really close to the top. It's not really close to the edge. But in the editor, it's just about perfect. And that sets that up for being rendered in that position. Now I could adjust that a little bit more. I suppose I could change this to 570. No, not that one. This one. Let's go 310. And that puts it a little bit closer to the top. I'm going to go back to the editor, and that's pretty snug up in that corner. It's not going to block too much of the view. And I could always size it down a little bit if I really wanted to, but this is how I've been doing the ARC videos that I'm doing, so I'm happy with that. It's fine by me. You still get to see enough of the action going on in the middle of the screen. And that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, by the way, we do need to add the video pieces to the outro, and I've actually already done that. They are here now, but to make sure that they don't, because right now if I play this,
yeah, he's going after this.
You can hear the video clips in the foreground actually, and you can barely hear the music in the background. So what I'm going to do is right click, go to options, and mute both of these clips. And what that will do is it will ensure that they don't interfere with the background music for the outro. And now it is ready to be exported. But before we do that, we do need to save it. And then we're going to go to the export screen, and I'll show you the new settings that I use. So I always do it in MP4. Timeline is editor, content area, the length, which is the full length of the editor. We're going to export video and audio, the width and height, frame rate, square pixels. We change the profile to high. We can leave the level at 4 because that's not really going to matter. And we're going to do variable bit rate instead of doing the constant bit rate. Variable bit rate will allow it to make a smaller video, but if there's a lot of action going on and it needs a little bit more, it will take that a little bit more. Now, these are the settings for the target bit rate and max bit rate. So let's say we want the target bit rate to be 12 megabits per second. We can set the maximum bit rate to 24 megabits per second. And of course we always set the audio bit rate to 128. That's basically mono. That means that all the audio is going to be placed on a single channel, and that's fine. And with this setting, we should have a file that's actually right around or even slightly less than either of the original video files that we imported for the full, for the video. That's including the intro and outro. So this is the setting that I use now for exporting my MP4s, and you'll see just how good that looks in this video. So until next time, guys, stay tuned for more tutorials on Hitfilm, and if you enjoyed this video, I urge you to subscribe and give it a like, share it wherever you want to share it. I'm going to be posting it on Twitter, on my Facebook account, and on my Google+. So until then, bye.